Hey folks, we're going to continue working on illustrations today for the upcoming supplement combat and Spelljammer combat and exploration. Give me a second here to check my signal. I'll go through my intro and then we'll get to work here for a couple hours. So let's see, we're doing a mic check, 1, 2, 3. Let's see, we're doing a mic check, 1, 2, 3. Mic check. There we go. Sounds like that's coming through A-OK. Let's go ahead and start boosting signal. If you're catching me here in the future, hey future. If you know the intro, go ahead and skip forward a minute or so if you want. But for those not familiar with intro already, or those that are stuck here in the present with me here, trapped in time with me. My name is Phil Kearney. I create role-playing games. I illustrate them. I publish them online. I've been focusing my attention on Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition for the past 5 years, and there is a slew of work that's published. Link down below. It's all published at DMsGuild.com. They all have extensive free previews, so if you like the artwork that I produce, there's probably about 150 different illustrations in just the books that I have linked down below, and if you do a search for my name as an artist on DM's Guild, you'll probably find about 100 books at this point that have my stock art in them, so you can check all that stuff out if you're interested. Thanks a lot for being interested in the work that I produce. If you are a DM or a player and you like 5e options, the things that I build are meant for use from level 1 to 20. As a DM, I run campaigns from level 1 to 20 in the course of about 200 to 250 hours. The things that I publish are either tools that I needed to develop any way to run the campaign that I want, or were things that I developed over the course of a campaign to deal with a particular circumstance, situation, or style of campaign that we were running, and it seemed cool enough that we ended up building out into rules. So, whether chicken or egg, whatever it wants, horse before cart, etc. The books down there are meant for use and get used from level 1 to 20 in the campaigns that I run, including this Spelljammer Combat and Exploration. I'm actually going to begin my homebrew campaign using this supplement probably in a couple weeks now. Once this book publishes, we'll be shifting gear to start working on that. I have a Discord. There's a link down below. I just posted in the Reddit's Spelljammer community. Thanks a lot, guys, for being so supportive of the stuff that I do. Looking forward to sharing it with y'all. I just posted on Twitter. I'm at Phil Kearney. If you're still using the Twitter X platform, you can follow me there. Best way to support the channel of all, though, is to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notifications when I'm live in the future. We're currently at episode 287 of developing this since August 17th, 2022. So we're getting down here. We should be done in January 2024. We created this book cover back around episode 14, so you can jump into the full playlist here to jump into the Wayback Machine. Check that out. I have a Patreon where you can subscribe and get updates and playtests. Twitter you know about. Discord community you just saw. Be welcome to hang out. We're going to be doing playtesting for the Martial Power System. But like I said, I build tools that are meant to be used. So we have an idea, we play test it, we then flesh out the words, we hand it off to an editor who then passes it back to us. This was built with help of Joseph Vargas, Ukulele Bard, who helped me suss out the map and the action economy to make sure that we weren't creating an imbalanced game. So a lot of help and support. Thank you, Ukulele. And Adam Hancock is our editor who does fantastic work. When he passes it back to us, we drop it into a Word document here to break up the page, and where all these empty spaces are, you can see on the page here. We fill with illustrations, so we'll extract a PDF from here. We'll go down here into Photoshop, we'll insert the PDF, and then we start illustrating on it. I don't see color, so I have to get color references off of photographs and paintings. Luckily, Wizards of the Coast has some of the best painters in the world creating fantasy art for them. So I feel pretty confident when I'm color sampling off of WotC work that it's going to end up good. But I have an RGB indicator up here in the right-hand corner to make sure I know what kind of colors we're actually dealing with when we're dealing with it. Once these illustrations get done, we go back into the document, and like here we will then insert the illustration into the book. Once all of the illustrations are in the book and everything is properly positioned, hyperlinked, and referenced inside of the document, we'll seal it up into a PDF. We'll publish it on DMsGuild.com, and it'll be available for you guys to consume down there. There's probably, I think it was on episode 80 that we started creating all there's like 80 ship, fighter craft, NPC, creature tokens, as well as maps that are included in a zip file. That'll be online as well. And I think we're going to include all the Light of Zaraxis stuff in this adventure here, and we're going to have just more tokens in general as a separate thing for people that want more tokens. And then we'll bundle them all together for a heavy discount so that folks can get everything in the zip folder and this book and all the Light of Zaraxis assets, all for the same cost as this book. We'll just bundle up into a package. And then we'll be able to add on more stuff to it as we go along. So there's other books that we have planned, but let's not put the horse in front of the cart. We are currently working on ship tokens. We're working on the fighter craft. We are going to continue doing so. Let's see, this is the color work here. So let's create a new layer. I'm going to go over here. We're going to reference this. I'm going to grab that edge color there for the blades, and let's see if I can just get this thing on there. We'll get this all sealed up today, and then we'll start working on the galleon. I don't think these fighter craft are going to take much longer. I don't really think I need much color here. I'm just going to want to fuse all the layers together, and then just make sure that I clean up the line work a little bit. That should be sufficient for us. The second appendix of the book, the Light of Zaraxis Conversion Guide, when Wizards published Spelljammer's Adventures in Space box set, it includes an adventure called Light of Zaraxis. It's a 120-page book. Is it 96, 120? I think it's 128 pages. And using the rules that Wizards created, what few rules Wizards created are used in that book. And this combat and exploration book that we're creating here is an expansion to help flesh out a lot of the mechanical rules that are useful in spelljamming adventures, like incremental travel times, astral, like a deeper dive into traveling in the astral sea, visibility tables, so that you can tell like how easily you can see something from a distance in space on a ship. Yada 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 yada, like falling damage with like massive structures and all that sort of stuff. That's all in here to answer questions that will crop up over the course of a campaign. Like if you actually run a campaign. Here, I think I figured out what's going on with that line that was there. It was a matter of what layers I had highlighted or were selected in the OBS system. So I just got rid of my line there. Hey Tyler, how you doing, my guy? There. Let's see if I can get this thing positioned. There we go. Yeah, things are coming along, man. Let's leave that like that. We'll erase into that in a bit. Here, we're going to go into here. And this is really small, so I don't have to do a crazy amount of detail at this scale. But I do want to make sure I have enough in place that it's going to read properly. I'm on vacation from my day job this week. It allows me to stay online here and paint a little bit more than I normally would. Technically, I could be online painting a hell of a lot more than I normally would, but I am processing the content for Light as Araxis, and layout, like typing text and layout stuff, tends to not be very exciting footage, I find. 12-hour shift? Wave, my guy. Well done. Congratulations on your survival. Thursdays are big days for Phil. I've got we got this that we're streaming here, and then normally I would be back on around 7 o'clock to work on Eberron artwork, but I have the day off, so usually I don't have time in my work week to accommodate any additional stream time on Thursdays because of just, life scheduling. But since this is holiday, I have that time free, so I can come back for some martial powers at lunchtime. At lunch, I've been processing, I've been converting the spell lists for the Ravnica backgrounds. Each of the guilds in Ravnica, you get 10 free spells, depending on which guild you're a part of. At first level, second level, up to 5th level, like spellcasting does. But since the martial power system is offering a magic system that isn't spellcasting, is martial powers, the spell list isn't appropriate for martial characters that are using Ravnica backgrounds. So we have to convert all of those into a list of martial powers instead of spells. So we're taking inspiration of the spells that are already on the list and finding similar equivalents, or taking the flavor of what the guild is that you're working on, and just finding guild appropriate powers to make universally available to any martial character that joins that guild. So we've been going through that. We've got 5 of the 10 done. I'll come back at lunch today and probably knock down maybe 2 more. So it's basically just going through the list, the philosophy, looking at the color, the colors of the guild, and what spells are naturally allocated to them, and then just swapping them out. So it's not a very difficult process. It's just a matter of just chewing through the list and seeing what's there for us to add on, and we will continue to have streams about this conversion process because of the Martial Powers playtest that we will be conducting once this Spelljammer book is done. My schedule is going to get freed up with a lot of creative time. The Eberron project will move to the mornings, and my evenings will be open for me to do Martial Powers and other Spelljammer side projects, while I continue to focus here in the morning on completing the Eberron adventure so we can publish that. Once that gets published, the only projects I have left on my plate officially is the Martial Powers book, the Color Mana Spell Point Variant Rules conversion for 2024, and any ancillary Spelljammer content like the War Mechs, the Kaiju Combat, Glory of the Giants conversion, stuff like that. Yeah. So, aren't the colors of all the guilds just black? Shades of green. La 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 la. It sure seems like it to me, my guy. Weisenheimer. Yeah, it's ironic that a fully colorblind guy would be basically the only creator in the game space doing anything specifically with color mana. The irony is never lost on me, and it just makes me that much more proud that I'm the vessel through which these ideas get expressed. All hail to God and the muses. And I love what I've been given the ability to be able to produce, to be able to express ideas like this. It might not be like curing paralysis or something, but it's at least I find it rewarding, and it's clever, and it's inventing things, and it's stuff that works. And given the limits of RPG game space, it's useful. So I am proud of the work that I do, even though it's certainly not saving anyone's life, unless of course you were so depressed and you picked up my game and you found restored value in being alive again. Then I guess hats off to me for creating a fun book. But there's no assumptions there. I'm pretty sure in another reality I am working for DARPA, creating artificial limbs and bridging synapses to re-spark energy into lost limbs. It's just that's something that really resonates with me a lot in a really peculiar way. I have a lot of nightmares and traumatic moments of feeling like I'm losing a limb. Like having my hand cut off, or like having my leg crushed. I don't know why. It's just it's not something I actually fear. It's just like there's this weird energy that floats around me. It makes me think that there's another Phil in another reality that's figuring out how to solve those problems, and maybe when I die I can meet that guy. But I just make games. But it's the same creative energy of solving problems and tackling something is like that somebody hadn't thought of or didn't think was possible to build, and building it anyway. Like I said, I'm not saving any lives, but just an artist. I'm just making tools. I'm just making means of expressing yourself in a game. Right on, man. Like I said, it's no contribution is too small if it gives somebody purpose or hope or meaning. Or just flat inspiration. I mean, most of the stuff that I produce isn't off of my back's effort anyway. It's inspiration. It just gets fed to me. My job is just to pay attention to the signal and allow it to broadcast as cleanly through my channel as possible. So slashing blades deal triple damage. A piercing ram when it hits. Normally, if you're using grappling weapons like piercing rams or grappling claws or tentacles or whatever it is that your ship's got going on, it would normally be an attack, and then you would use a bonus action to trigger an effect, either grapple or scuttle. Are typically the two things you do. Grapple is to grab hold of a ship and prevent it from moving, normally so you'll be able to board that ship or tow it away to be destroyed. And then there's scuttling, which is when you hit, when you're aggressively striking an object or a craft with the specific purpose of making your gravity, like throw its gravity off. So that when you hit them, everybody on board has to make saving throws and take falling damage. And so that has the opportunity to like knock a pilot out of the chair so the ship goes dark for a minute so that it has no weapons or shields up. It could just be that like if you hit and scuttle a ship, then you can yeet out, and while the ship is scuttled, it's disabled. That's going to give you that extra round of movement just to help you break away to be able to escape pursuit. So scuttling has really good uses. Grappling keeps you still. Scuttling opens up opportunities to manipulate movement and your ability to target. And so the blunt rams, bludgeoning rams, when they hit, you can scuttle or grapple if you have an appropriate weapon. You can always scuttle a craft. Or you can always scuttle a ship. If you hit it, you can with a melee weapon. You can always attempt to scuttle it with a bonus action. If you're using a grappling style weapon, if your ship is large enough to be able to grapple the target, then congratulations, you're grappling. If your ship or your creature is too small to be able to stop the thing that it's targeting, it technically hasn't grappled, but you aren't big enough to keep it from moving. So that's what we call having a hold on something. Hold is an old term from 3rd edition, where in the grappling procedure during combat, it would be you'd make a touch attack. So it'd be like an unarmored attack. If you're successful with the attack, you touch. Now you have a hold on them, and then it's an opposed strength or dexterity check, using athletics and acrobatics as you please, to make a contested check. And if you win the contest, you grapple. If you're attempting to evade the grapple and you win you win the save, then you are not grappled, but they still have a hold on you. So hold is when they're touching. And so like if these little aerocraft here, if they had grappling claws on them, they'd be able to grab hold of the ship. But if that ship moves, obviously that little craft is going to get towed along with it, which is the use of holding things. If you have a hold on it, you've attached yourself like a tick to the ship, and while it moves, you move with it automatically, which normally you can use a reaction as a ship-to-ship combat. You can use a reaction to pace another ship, because you can move so much further than weapons can fire in Spelljammer as basically as free movement using a reaction. When a target moves, you move with that target and you stay in the same fixed position as the target as you move. That's pacing your opponent. And pacing is like an in-combat form of pursuit. Pursuit is when a target breaks away far enough that you can't attack it with weapons anymore, typically over a mile away, and is continuing to attempt to increase space between you and the target and the threat. So if you break out of combat distance, your combat shifts into pursuit, where you do opposed pilot checks to either increase or close distance to evade combat altogether, or to close distance again to re-engage in combat. If you evade successfully, it has to be an hour before, if the pursuer is capable of keeping track of the target through the orrery. If you're maintaining concentration on your orrery as like a sonar system, you can keep an eye on your target, and after an hour, you'll have the opportunity to either close enough distance that you can re-engage in combat, or your target has opened up enough space that you can't catch up with them for attempting to catch them at 100 million miles away the next day. So normally escape is a two check. There's the first initial escape, and then there's the 1 hour passive time, which is enough time for everybody to take a short rest to refuel their short rest resources in case distance does close. Then you have the opportunity to engage again. A pacing is that step in between where the enemy is making movement, either trying to close distance with you or open distance with you while you're in combat. If you use a reaction to pace, they can't change distance with you at all because you're moving with them. If the best way to break somebody off of pacing you is to ram them into something. Like if we're locked step like this and there's a rock where my nose is at, I can fly your ship into my nose and it'll cause that ship to crash. So the person that's pacing the target can always end the pace at any time they want. So if a ship maneuvers through asteroids and you have to break the pace, then that's how they fall behind distance as you weave your way to escape. It's pretty simple rules when you break it down, but we had to build diagrams and do all the wordsmithing to explain how this shit works. But so having said all that, most rams, like piercing rams and blunt rams, they deal double damage. But slashing rams, they don't have the advantage of being able to grapple or scuttle craft. If you hit with a ram, you're going to use movement, you're going to use an attack action, and you don't have to use a bonus action. You automatically get to scuttle at the end of a ram attack. If it's a bludgeoning ram, you automatically impale your opponent if you hit with a piercing ram attack. at the end of a ram, you get to grapple for free. Slashing rams can't grapple, and they can't, so they don't gain any free action economy. So instead of just dealing double damage, they deal triple damage. So having that's all of that. I'll probably break all that. I'll probably actually break all that stuff down into a separate conversation piece for this upcoming Sunday, like explaining how ramming works in the system. Super fucking fun. Hey Karen, how you doing? With all the terms on it, we'll talk. Yeah, we do. Hold on. I'll wait for the page to zoom. But yeah, when we do our little Sunday tear out, we'll be able to bounce between the different pages, and we have all the diagrams and stuff as well. They're just there's the action economy for your characters to actually be able to do this stuff in the first place. You'll use object interaction to steer your ship in the direction that you want to go. Then you'll just make a simple ship melee attack, and if it's a ram attack, you would use a bonus action to perform the ram. And since you're using your bonus action to ram, you automatically get to do the grapple or the scuttle. Scuttling, as you can see here, scuttling is a separate action that you can perform, but a blunt ram will do it automatically. So moving past all the action economy of a pilot using attack actions to do this stuff, just like a character would on the back of a horse, we move down into the ship melee weapons section, past the weapons into rams. So here you go. Ram is a general term used for ship melee, so bludgeoning when a pilot hits with a ram attack. Deep. Onto grappling weapons. Yeah, pretty straightforward. Where do I have? Ram is a general term for ship melee attacks that can also be used to make a ram attack, dealing bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage. In addition to making ship melee attacks, rams have the following properties when used in a ram attack. And ram attacks themselves, I believe, I resolved earlier on the page. Squeezing in a smaller spacing, scuttling, ram. Okay, so before the action economy is different types of movement. So we got shifting scale at the beginning of the combat chapter, and we'll add all the illustrations in. We have ship combat scale, and then we have depicting scale during combat, shifting between the three different scales from 550 to 5-foot scale. There's diagrams for that. And then there's shifting with a stationary object, which is also known as landing and taking off of an object. Then there's shifting scale with moving targets, which is how we get into the conversation about pacing. Surging is when you move at a larger scale than the map depicts. So if you're moving at 500-foot squares and the map is only 50-foot squares, then each square of movement you take is equal to 10 squares. One 500-foot square of movement is equal to 10 squares of 50-foot scale movement. So you can change scales of distance on a map to be able to move great distances across the map that's depicted, because that map is just zooming in on your ships at the 1 mile or greater scale anyway. You're just zooming in to see the actual space between your two ships. If you're flying 1,000 miles in a round, space of 100 feet apart isn't really consequential. So, but we have illustrations for like how surging works, illustrations for how pacing works, outpacing to enter a pursuit. So here's the mechanics for pursuit. And then there's additional ship maneuvers like aligning your gravity planes by tapping or hitting another target. The rules for grappling, opportunity attacks as reactions, and then the ram. A vessel has to move at least 500 feet towards a target, and when you successfully ram, you can injure movement adjacent to the target at the 50 or 5-foot scale, your choice, but craft are smaller than 50 feet. So when you make a ram attack with a fighter craft, you're going to injure your movement within 5 feet of the target. And if there isn't enough distance between you and the target to make a ram attack as listed above, you can instead choose to surge towards the target as detailed in the surging section above before using a bonus action to make the attack, but doing so risks inertia shock. Inertia shock is when you shift scale multiple times during the course of combat, and speeding up and slowing down your ship to be able to maneuver and gain close distancing with other targets, since you can change scale from 5 feet to 1,000 mile squares during the course of a normal round of movement. Jumping in those different degrees of scale causes inertia shock. DC is 20, plus the number of magnitudes that you shift scale per round, 5, 50. So from 5 feet to 50 feet, 500 feet, 1 mile, 10 miles, 100 miles, 1,000 miles. A maximum DC of 26 if you're going from stationary to full yeet speed to blast out of space. You could potentially shock yourself in the process of doing that if you make a Constitution saving throw. DC of 26. Really fucking difficult to hit. If you fail it, you're stunned for a round, your ship is disabled, and it's basically drifting until you can re-spark. And the helm gets shut down. It basically pops a spark. It'll come back online next round. Your pilot then has to spend an action to reattune, and then you can use your normal action economy again. So when you hit a scuttle, when you scuttle a craft to escape, you can afford to step slowly from combat speed into high speed to be able to evade that. But again, a high level character can go from still to max speed and then brake on a dime and not cause the ship aboard to get scuttled. If you yeet speed like that and you fail your inertia shock check, the ship gets scuttled. So everybody on board gets thrown and lurched out of their seat. If you're restrained, or you can use a reaction to hold on, you can brace for impact and not have to worry about getting inertia shock. But if the pilot fails a saving throw, they can't do anything about it. They get stunned and the helm goes down for a round. So even if there was somebody else co-piloting with you, the helm goes offline. There's nothing they can do about it until it comes back online. You're sitting ducks. So the inertia system was included to prevent people from making an attack 50 feet away and then light speeding 3,000 miles away and then yeeting back in 3,000 miles to make a pop, 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 another attack, and then yeet out 6,000 miles again to have this crazy yo-yo effect in combat of entering and exiting combat. You can do that if you're really a high-level character, but you're going to be making a DC check. You're going to be making an inertia shock every time you jump in or jump out again. It's an inertia shock check with a DC above 20. So it's going to catch up with you. And if you're close up and you fail your inertia shock check, you're literally going to ram into whatever it is that you're coming at, which could be good news, but there's nothing you can do about it. So you can't save out of it. It's going to be full damage, and your shields are down, so your ship is going to take structural damage. Anyway, so that is to say, we talked about ramming and scuttling and then squeezing through a smaller space. It's all alphabetical here. So, and then you get to the ship rolls, so you can look at the action economy that lets you do all that stuff. And then once you're done with the rolls, then it goes into the specific weapons that you use to do those things. So what can you do? How can you do it? What do you do it with? That's the progression of logic through the document, and how we break up the information for people to digest. Anyway, I'm on a total tangent, but hey, it's Tangent Thursday. Welcome to the mix. Nothing special. Right on. Tyler, your jokes are the worst, man. You sure you're not a dad? I love you, dude. Just the dad jokes, man. The dad jokes. We're going to lump those together. We're going to duplicate this layer. We're going to conceal that one. We're going to merge this one. And we're now going to increase the size of this one. We're going to skinny it down a bit. And we're going to tilt it to match angle with the rest of the flight. And then we'll be able to do detail work on it. You and your dad jokes, man. Violent. Let's do this instead. Kind of like there. I like there. I'd go with these guys being off position with each other. That's cool. Like that. Yeah, that feels right. And now these guys. Let's give them a tilt to match the angle of the ship. I need to shrink these down a touch to match scale of the vessel. That feels about right. Yeah, I like that. Those angles feel... Actually, I'm going to pull these up and out a bit. Maybe... How's that sitting? Let's hide our references. I'm playing with positioning right now, just for the composition. Like the further away I move these fighters from the ship, the smaller they're going to need to get. So if I leave them here. No, those are the right size for those. Yeah, I just feel like these should be a little smaller. Yeah, alright, that's probably the right size. Alright, let's go with it. Alright, so those are all good. Let's start doing some cleanup here. Because they're tiny, there's no reason for them to be sloppy. So we're just going to sculpt and carve and straighten these things up just using this hard smudge tool. Don't need to do a lot of detail, but I might do a hint of color. Technically, this guy's too big. Down. I can do this for a couple hours. Yeah, so I have confirmation from the team that they do want to do Eberron for the Spelljammer setting. So we'll be moving forward with the asteroid belt mining resource campaign. They're going to they'll be in charge of a asteroid mining operation consisting of dwarves, warforged, and human. They'll have I'll need to once this book is done and I've got space open on my plate for additional design, we'll be building out the resource system and how much gain can they get from a single unit of resources depending on what industry it is. We'll have spells and enchantments that they can acquire. They'll have human resources or creature resources that they can acquire for additional troops. They'll have tech resources for advancing their ship, their mining tools, and their mecha sentries to fight the creatures that are trapped inside of the asteroids that they mine. So the campaign goes like this. The tiers of Sybaris that surround Eberron. Eberron has a number of moons, but it also has an asteroid, or a ring, right? Like Saturn has a ring. And that ring is consisting of massive psionic resonating crystals and precious metals like chunks of adamantine, chunks of platinum, chunks of copper, silver, iron, any kind of interesting metal, plus just flat rock. So there's going to be a mixture of valuable and not valuable asteroids that are floating in a region that the team can then choose which one they want to target. The more rare the metal and the more pure the strain or the vein of metal that's in the asteroid, the higher percentage chance of a kaiju being trapped or attracted to that location. And the kaiju could be anything, but under worse circumstances, they're psionic gods that are trapped inside of a massive, like a 3-mile crystal. It's just raw, 100%, just a massive crystal. Well, in the center of it, that crystal is a prison. So the game is how much of this crystal can we extract off of the shell of the prison without accidentally breaking a kaiju loose. And if we break it loose, can we defeat it so we can claim all of the rock or not? So as the team goes into the asteroid belt, they're going to choose a particular asteroid that looks like it's going to be profitable for them. Like they'll have an assessment, so they'll do a survey of a few different asteroids that'll be in the region they have to work with. Each rock will have a different difficulty to be able to successfully extract resources from it, and they'll also be able to do a prospecting check to verify how much wealth they think they can extract from it. Given the purity of the rock that they find and the content and like what kind of metals it carries, they'll be able to do a personal assessment of the risk of like how likely is it there's a monster inside of here, and how far in do we need to dig to get to the good stuff, and how close is that going to get us to the kaiju. So as they eat away squares inside of the asteroid, there's a dungeon. There's like a 5-room dungeon, or like a D4 plus 1 room dungeon somewhere inside of the asteroid, and it'll scale differently from 5-foot dungeons to 500-foot dungeons depending on the scale of the threat. So they'll need to have shock troops at the human scale, 5-foot squadrons, but they'll also need to have mecha at the 50-foot scale so they can fight larger creatures with siege scale weapons as their monkey suit, basically. So they'll need to be able to afford those, and then they'll need to have combat specialists that are capable of piloting those kind of combat rigs. And so they'll have a mining crew, they'll have a combat crew, and they're going to have a ship crew to be able to transport the crews back and forth to where they're supposed to go to deploy or deposit their resources. So they'll hit an asteroid, they'll survey it, they'll dig out as much of it as they can. If they crack open a dungeon space, they'll then send their SWAT team mechas in to fight whatever's inside of it. And if they're victorious, then they can claim the rest of the dungeon for them to then be able to extract. When they finish extracting the resources, they load it onto the ship. They take it back to the refinery. They get a paycheck. At any time, pirates could attack. So they have to have defense units, fighter craft, gunboats, and more mecha to be able to fight off pirates that invade their loot. So you can either go and harvest an asteroid yourself, or you can steal the claim of another mining operation. So that's the core of the campaign. And so the team will have the opportunity to create rivalries and competition with other mining operations. They can pick fights with and combat other organizations or rogue pirate pirate raiders. And then of course there's the kaiju themselves that they have to fight. So, and then once they get the resources and secure it and get away with them, then they can start wheeling the material into resources that they can convert into each industry of technology, magic, manpower, and prospecting. I think those are going to be the 4 things. Like improve your stuff, improve your magic, improve your characters, and improve your mining capabilities. I think those are the 4. Oh, and then there'd probably be improve your resource connections. So yeah, 5 aspects I think are the 5 industries are going to work with. So once we have this off our plate and we have time open up, I'll be able to build out the specs for how that campaign will run. Like the basic chassis of it we'll be able to build here online. And then when I start running the campaign through, I'll be able to come back and do updates with you guys to see how it played out. And if it plays well in the long run, I'll be able to build that out into a campaign kit. So using the mechanics that we have here and all the kaiju stuff, by the time that campaign ends, I'll probably have a mecha kaiju book published that will be able to just use whatever it is. Like I said at the beginning of the stream, books that I publish are either tools that I need for the kind of campaign I want to run, or are developed over the course of a campaign I am running that are cool enough for me to then convert into a book. So for the Kaiju Mecha Combat book, I'll be able to start off with a basic premise using our fighter craft mechanics to be able to build the mecha, and using the scaling creature mechanics that we have in the exploration chapter, we'll be able to build larger scale creatures anywhere from 50 foot to 10 miles in size, roughly. I mean, we can technically go bigger. I mean, I can go to 100 million mile size creature if I want to, but unless you're planning on killing an elephant that your world is resting the back on the back of, is proper English. Like I could give you the hit point capacity of the world turtle and the 4 turtles and like the elephants that the world sits on and the turtle that the elephants stand upon. I can give you the hit point and damage reduction for those creatures if you want to scale. That's how large scaling for falling damage, hit point capacity, damage resistance, size, etc. That's the scale that we can work with for kaiju if we want to. So it's pretty thorough. It's got a lot going on. It's a good book. And I think it's awesome that Spelljammer would be the initial framework, because the scale and distance of planets is just massive, obviously. And then having craft that can interact in that space in real time gives us a sense of scale that we can then, as we go and develop other books, we can trim down, like how fast can things like humans can only move, on average 3 miles per hour. So if we're going to have massive scale combat, then our scaling and timing of rounds is going to shift to accommodate the scale of movement that the participants are capable of operating in. So Spelljammer really is the best of all worlds. You have the maximum amount of space and time that you can use in combat, and it also has a limit of being like non-energy weapons. They're not like lasers that can shoot at something 100,000 miles away in a blip of an eye. They're using these archaic weapons that have at most a range of about 1 mile, because they come at you so slow you can literally see them coming a mile away. So if you're aware that you're in combat, you can't get hit by weapons more than a mile away, because it's just too easy just to naturally slide out of the way as part of just as a non-action, like shifting your stance 15 feet so that rock moves by. Here it comes. There it goes. So Spelljammer has such a unique format that it requires ridiculously close-scale combat with ships that can move ridiculous distances. So it's this really fun paradigm shift, which is why we had to introduce system shock, or the inertia shock system, to keep you from bouncing in and out of combat. If I were to make a sci-fi version of this with missiles and laser systems and plasma guns and stuff that were capable of firing at each other at hundreds or thousands of miles apart, then we'd be operating at the 500 or larger foot scale a lot more, because we'd be able to have carrier crafts that are like 10 miles long, like super star destroyers and stuff like that. We'd be able to operate at those scales because of those weapons, but since Spelljammer doesn't have that kind of tech built into the setting, we didn't address it, which gives us a lot of narrative space for us to address in other game systems. If I were to do like a Creative Commons version of this for a generic D20 system, or like make it Dungeon Crawl Classics, or Starfinder, or Lancer, or yada 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 yada. These mechanics will work with basically any D20 game that's out there. It's just a matter of which ones do I want to prioritize. And of course, since it's all inspired by Spelljammer, give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, we publish on the DMsGuild first, because it's just, to me, that's I want to have integrity. That's how I choose to express my integrity. But once I do that, I'm clear to take the language and change it into whatever I want and go into any game system I please, which may end up being like a 2026, 2027 sort of project to do. Once I get the mass combat and guild and kingdom stuff all published for Creative Commons, then I can really start riffing and building in my own Kickstarter project space. That's the idea anyway. Let's get rid of that little twid. I'm intentionally leaving these guys vague because, A, this guy needs to be smaller. But who they are really isn't important. They're just pirate raiders, you know, kicking around on a rocket cycle. But I digress. This is just me talking about the future again because I'm excited about it. These fighter craft are cheap. They're very, very cheap to make. A minor helm. These helms. So a normal spelljamming helm, a major helm, has the 100 million miles per day travel speed between worlds, which allows it to clip up to 1,000 miles squares on a grid during a normal combat round. But these minor helms, the major helms, they only cost 5,000 gold pieces in 5th edition. It makes it really cheap and affordable for second-tier characters to be able to get access to it, so you can start playing in space realistically on your own, self-funded, by around 3rd or 4th level. And these fighter craft are even less expensive. It's only 500 gold for a minor helm. But it has a cap speed of 100 miles, a 10 mile square. It can go 100 miles per round, as opposed to the major helms can go 10,000 miles per round. And so a major helm can can fight in combat using squares up to 1,000 miles in size, even though weapons can't effectively attack more than 1 mile away. They can vastly outscale the distance that the weapons can fire. That hence the irony of the system. But the fighter craft, they have a cap speed of 10 mile squares. during combat, because they can only move up to 100 miles in a round. So their square conversion is 10 mile squares. But again, combat is limited to 1 mile, so that's 10 times the scale of movement that they need to have to be able to effectively participate in combat using Spelljammer. Again, a very sweet spot of design for what the scale of vehicles are capable of operating at with the medium that they're using. I'm gonna stretch this guy's nose out a bit. Maybe that's what Sunday's session will be about. Scale of combat and scale of movement. Because last week it was about incremental movement over time, like on a large scale over travel between worlds, like 100 million miles per day converts effectively into 10,000 miles per 6 seconds, which is where the 1,000 mile square maximum combat scale came from. But I haven't spoken about combat scale specifically before. So this upcoming Sunday, that would actually be a really good opportunity for me to talk about how you can then curve into combat engagement distances and how you can change scale during that process, compared to overland movement over the course of a day or hours or tens of minutes or whatever. That would be a natural. I think that'd be a natural progression. That sounds like a really natural next step thing to talk about. And I could probably make a 10-minute video out of that for this Sunday. It takes about 2 hours for me to make a 2-hour video, from hey, I should make a video, to published with a title card. So a 10-minute video takes 2 hours. A 15-minute video, 15 to 20-minute video takes 3 hours. This is with second takes and stuff like that. Even though it sounds like really off the cuff, if I fall into it, most of the time when I have to start over and have another take, it's because I fell into a tangent I wasn't prepared to talk about. That's why I have on the sideboard over here. That's why I'll have a table of contents or an agenda while I'm recording the Sunday tearouts. Sunday extraction. I don't know what we're supposed to be calling it yet. It's not really an extraction because it's not like I'm actually talking about a thing here. And then just extracting that conversation into the 10-minute piece. Although I may actually be able to take that diatribe I just ran through for the past 40 minutes and put that as a standalone, but it's a long walk. If I keep my videos down to 10 or 15 minutes, I'm noticing that they have pretty good engagement with the Reddit crowd in particular. Surprisingly, Reddit is in support of the Spelljammer work that I'm doing, and I have found that the savagery of sarcasm and distaste that can arise in that community is thwarted because of how thorough my previews are. It's kind of hard to throw shade at somebody about paid products when you allow them to read the entire thing before they choose to purchase it. Kind of shuts down the whole necessity for pirating too. And I find generally that people buy my books not because they want this book, but because they want me to make more books. So they'll pay me after they read one of my books. It's like, oh yeah, you should keep doing this shit. Here, I'm going to go ahead and buy this one. I'll buy that one too. And maybe this other third and fourth and fifth book. I'll just buy the whole bundle. I see that happen over and over and over again. Somebody will pick up one of my books for free, and then they'll circle back around and spend $30 on me. It's like, yes, that is the correct response to the stuff that I build. Thank you kindly. Kickstarters will be a big shift because there'll be people paying for the book before the fact, which is why I want to do so much of this work online over so much time with different types of books. So when I get around to doing Kickstarters, it's like, yeah, go look at the 400 hours I put into building this Eberron adventure. I'll assuming I don't die, this next thing I'll connect with. And then we build the whole thing on stream, and we playtest it with people that are Kickstarter backers, and then we illustrate the whole thing like we're doing right now, and we'll be able to watch the entire Kickstarter book just basically get wished into existence one pixel at a time. But now I'm in hard loop random. I'm looping aspirations on you guys. I'm sure Karen is just absolutely tired of hearing me talk about this, but honestly, the more I talk about it, the more it gets ground into reality. It's a good thing. It's a good thing I do this. Hopefully people don't find it boring, or I have enough new people coming in that it's interesting and new to enough people that it's tolerable for those that have been around for a while. I don't know the ethics on these things, man. I'm just trying to do a deal. I'm just working on a side hustle. Text. Sup? Yeah, game mechanics is where my sweet spot is. I'm not great with like character backgrounds, integrating character stories. I'm abysmal at that. I'm so bad at it. My entire style of campaign, of running games is built around not being good at integrating characters' backstories by requiring the players to integrate their backstory into the adventure instead. Make you do the work. I'm busy running a world. But yeah, I can build mechanical systems pretty damn good. I occasionally do voices, and so whenever I do a voice for an NPC, the players almost immediately glom onto it as their pet. Because when are they going to get another character that's going to do voices again? So it like forces me into having to play out this fucking voice over time. Sometimes I just like, hey, look, I'm just going to give up on it. But I also narrate in third person a lot, both for your characters, what they're doing, as well as what the world around is doing. Like I am a third person narrator in a role playing game. I keep that separation on purpose. Yeah, I'm good with that. Those are all coming along. I spy with my eye something that is text. Give me a second. I gotta argue with this edge. There. What's up? Oh, right on. I'm sorry, Karen. The reason why, as a DM, I've never developed good DMing skills of integrating backgrounds is because I get incredibly bored reading people's characters' backgrounds. It's a harsh truth, and I'm sorry. But it is a hard limitation that I have, that I just, like, I really don't care about people's backstories. So forgive me here, but when I run a level 1 to 20 campaign, I am doing a shitload of work in just building out the world and being able to build out a curve of a power scale progression in a world that will be able to integrate it. I, as a DM, really prefer that your character comes in as a blank slate, that you have no preconceptions or expectations about what you're supposed to be expressing with that character, and take cues from, like, don't even start on your character's backstory until you've gained a level. Like, just don't bother. Because if your character gets killed, then your backstory is kind of stupid and wasted, because you never had a chance to execute it. If you walk in with zero expectations about who your character is supposed to be, as the story we share emerges, then you can start creating, like I've talked about this before, like if you fight a brigand, a brigand captain, and there's a number of NPCs there, it's like, actually, I think this brigand crew is kind of cool. Maybe I accidentally used a voice or something with one of them, and now the team wants to adopt that mercenary army of brigands. Then it could be like, well, hey, what if I know in my backstory I had a great disappointment to somebody. Maybe it was my dad who wanted me to become a brigand, and I never did it. And lo and behold, this brigand camp knows my dad. So I can start integrating that storyline through this brigand camp. Now I want to lock into these brigands as like our go-to team for us to build resources and adventure hooks through. And it works with my backstory from my dad. Well, somebody else being like, I want this character to end up being like a great chemist, like a very vague idea of what you want to do with your character. It's like, well, then maybe we'll make this these brigands. Maybe they have a mad scientist that likes to build poisons and like acid traps and stuff like that, and you can start working in details with that NPC, like as a mentor, for instance. Like you can leave yourself open to that stuff and leave all of your character actual drama, interactions, personality traits, and stuff like that to emerge over the course of actual gameplay, so that every decision that you make for your character is going to fuse into and reinforce what's actually happening inside the campaign, so that as you develop your character, you're building them to lean into the rest of the team that is also building to lean into each other. So you end up having a bunch of integrated storylines that allow each of the character to progress their own goals by helping yours, because everyone's tethering off of each other. And if your character dies, it doesn't matter, because you're building all these tethers to each other that you'll find natural places to integrate new characters into the storyline that's evolved as a team, without any particular player or character being more important to the story than any other. You're all just working together to progress the storyline. So that's why I really don't like characters with backstories being introduced into a game, because I have no idea if the ideas that you're coming up with will ever be relevant to where the adventure goes. And as a DM, I'm not carving out special time for character backstories. I want you to figure out how the story is going to work with what you imagine your character being, right? So that's a real backwards approach to how 5th edition is perceived by most players. But this is me coming from BECMI and 1st edition, where like Dominion style, like you aren't really anybody until your 9th level. And back in those days, the only like the best way to describe your character is what magic items do they have. Like they don't have, like Dragonlance is when you started thinking about characters' backstories and drama and stuff. Before then, characters were just general user interfaces as a means of opening the door in the dungeon so you can find out what the next escape room puzzle trap is. Like D&D dungeons, for the most part, are just escape rooms that you're using a proxy character to engage with the different tools inside of that escape room space. And if they die, you just pick up a new, a new mouse tool to be able to continue attacking the problem as a team. And so that style of play really sticks with me as my roots as a DM. And so the idea of these, character backstories is like, that's, that like backstories is what you earn for staying alive. You don't start off with one, you earn it. So probably not a very popular opinion, and it sounds off-putting, to say like, I'm not interested in a character's backstory because it's antithetical to my goals as a DM. It sounds elitist and dismissive, and I don't mean it to be. But the ability to develop character stories like that is, as a DM skill, is useful because it helps build plot motivations and points of engagement for the party to interact with the NPCs and characters. So I actually, as a DM, find it important to know who the villains are in the game and what their motives are, so you know why they're moving the pieces around the board, and players can find means of latching on to those villains as social opportunities to engage with them. Anyway, you can't do it. I mean, you have to know your team, right? You have to know your players. You have to know your DM, and know how much information they're like a big problem that DMs have. It's the same thing. They create these manifestos of, I don't know if manifesto is the right word, They build these world atlases. Like, here's 1,000 pages of information about my campaign world, and your character doesn't give a shit about it. Like, you as a player, you don't give a shit about any of it. It's like, yeah, how is this relevant to my character? They're like, are we gonna start in a bar, and where is it? And where's the nearest dungeon? Like, that's all you really need right now. This whole team could party wipe, or, like, you know, the boyfriend girlfriend that showed up could end up breaking up next week, and then there goes half your team. Like, the players don't give a shit about the campaign world, just like I as a DM don't give a shit about your character's background. Because the campaign world is the campaign background, and as a DM, I am portraying the entire world. So kind of my background manifesto for my campaign is as irrelevant. There's an elegant reflection there. It's mirrored back. Like the DMs are expected to care about the backgrounds and the personality and motives of the players, but of the characters. But so often players don't give a flying fuck about the world that the DMs placed. Well, the DM had to invest a shitload more time building that world out compared to throwing together some ideas on a character sheet about somebody that might get one shot next adventure. Like, I think my sense of injustice towards how much work a forever DM has to put in to make a game run, to be handed a character sheet, and the player can't fathom what city that character would have come from in your homebrew world, is like, there is a disparity here in the equality of the system. If you want me to read your 3-page character, should I make you read my 30-page world background, and we can connect after every 10 pages you read and every 1 page I read? And you come with notes about where your character fits and what factions I've presented to you in my world, where that character belongs. You see? I think I'm just low-key angry at selfish players. But I think it helped shape my DMing style, so there it is. So I think the real confession here is that I'm angry at selfish players. So I developed a fuck you system to avoid making their important characters viable at all. So I guess that just kind of makes me a vindictive little bitch, doesn't it? Oh man, it's nice being able to be honest with yourself about who you are. That's nice. There's no noble cause here. I'm just angry. Because I used to do all that campaign stuff when I was like 16, 17, 18. And by the time I was 19, it had been beaten out of me. It took me a long time, and from age 12 to 14 is how long it took me to build a stable team to even play with, and I had to DM it. That's when I started becoming a forever DM. And then over the course of a number of years of developing campaign worlds and of all these plots and stuff, I came to the natural conclusion that is often the advice provided by others: don't bother, because you're never gonna see it. It's a giant waste of your time to build out all that stuff. Stay local. Stay local until the team proves they can get bigger. So like that lazy DM sort of feel, that Mike Shea sort of vibe. It's just the natural result of running shitloads of games and seeing player behavior. I am on a rant. I'm glad you guys show up for them. It's half the fun, right? Currently our homebrew world has not been fully developed. This will happen as the party explores it. Therefore, it allows the DMs to create small areas. Yeah. That's just good structuring. Only take as many steps as necessary, both DM and players. As the story and the world starts to get larger, the characters' background and their motives can get larger and more in depth as well to match the growth of the world around them. It's actually a really elegant system. I kind of got lucky in being a hard-nosed, bitter bastard about it, that it actually ended up developing cool mechanical systems. Oh, there you go, building a mechanical system. Like, I just gamified character backgrounds, right? It's like every time you gain a level, you can add another detail based on what your characters did to gain that level. How does the experience that you gained in this adventure add to your character's sense of self, sense of community, sense of camaraderie, and what memories or aspirations align with what just happened to help propel your character to pursue what's next, you know? So that's the gist of it. And honestly, I don't think I need to detail these little craft much more than that. I think I'm okay with that. Maybe we'll grab some shade here. I'm gonna add another layer, and then we can get into the galleon. And it's only 7:30. I've got another hour and a half to go. So let's finish up the shading here a little, and then we'll get into it. What's one of the funniest homebrew magic items you've given out to players? The funniest? I'm not a big magic item guy. The funniest? Like the goofiest or the silliest? Boy, I'm trying to think of something interesting. What a stumper. You brain locked me. Let's see. The 20th level campaign that I'm running right now, the team has a total number of magic items. They have a disintegration grenade, a petrification grenade, a crystal that creates a fog effect that they can maintain concentration on, another one that can target any number of creatures within 30 feet of them with fairy fire. They have a Biesh-infused dagger that crits against demon creatures. They have a Bible that is encoded with hidden meanings. It's full of what's the word I'm looking for? Code. It's got layered coding. That there's words, symbols, and stuff in the script. It's like a 2,000-page book. It's called the Book of Man. It's like a riff off of the Holy Bible. There's 7 gods of sin and there's 7 gods of virtue, and they're at war with each other. That's how the Church of Man works. It's an Eberron setting, but it basically it kind of recalibrates the sovereign hosts and the what is it, the six demon gods. It kind of recalibrates them into the 7 deadly sins and the 7 virtues. And so the church is about attempting to attain saintlyhood in one of the virtues while learning how to detect and overcome the sins. And so the Book of Man, as it's called, or it's the natural religion of man, is how it's framed, and that like all men face these demons, and all men aspire to elevate these virtues. So hence the Church of Man. The Bible that they run around with has all these deep esoteric meanings inside of it, and as they decode it, it opens up, like they can like when they find a symbol, they'll start finding that symbol hidden inside of the pages. Like if you pull the page back a little bit, you'll see gaps in the word that form this triangle. So like if you see a little triangle mark like somewhere random in the text, like that period isn't a period, it's actually a triangle. You know that sentence is referencing into those pages where these triangles show up in the negative space between words. There's triangles, circles, glyphs of different sorts. So there's all these encoded things that lie throughout it. And when they decode one of these things using like the tech traps or like find traps or find objects or different divinations they can do, or skill checks to dive into the text, they can extract rituals from it. And whenever they extract a ritual, it requires a religion or an arcane check or a spellcasting check at a different DC depending on what the equivalent level of that ritual is. But it allows them to do something that they weren't capable of doing before, like setting a teleportation circle, or like creating a ghost trap, different stuff like that. I don't know if it's necessarily funny, but but the book has been relevant for them the entire 20 level campaign. They found it at 3rd level, and they've kept it on them and kept extracting information from it. And every time they do a search, I let them search again at a new level. And when they find, sometimes they do good on the check, sometimes they do bad. And when they do bad on the check, they know there's more stuff there, but they haven't spent enough time studying the text to be able to extract enough information to actually do a valid search again. So I don't know if that's not a funny magic item, but I think it's the most useful magic item that I've ever created, because it was something that they have repeatedly gone back to over the course of 17 levels to continue extracting additional information to increase their capabilities. So I don't need to give them magic items like those 6. Oh, and then there's these little things called Jinxie balls. They're actually little mecha, like they're the size of a basketball, and they're little mecha suits that spirit fish use. They have a relationship with spirit fish. Basically, they're like dolphin and koi fish that are spirit creatures. All the spirit creatures in the game are fish of one sort or another. So they've been developed like the ranger is both a horizon walker, a hunter, and a beastmaster. So we blended horizon walker with beastmaster, so his animal companion is a spirit fish. So it exists in the spirit realm or the ethereal plane, and it can like see invisible creatures, and it can go through walls, and if he beast senses with it, he can see through its eyes, even though it's like passing through different walls and stuff. So they can explore space in unusual ways through the ranger, because they don't have a traditional wizard for like arcane sight and stuff. So we've blended their abilities in different ways, and so the Jinxie ball is a device that a spirit fish can possess, and that allows it to take on a physical body. And depending on how complex the device is, typically they can sprout little legs and crawl around like a crab. But more advanced models have gun turrets. Some of them have intricate thief tools that can go down to the micro level. Some of the traps that they've encountered in the game requires the druid to be a mouse small enough to be able to look at and manipulate the pieces. So she's like yelling up to the rogue is using mind sense to be able to communicate with the mouse, while the druid is like doing a telephone game with the rogue, explaining what the trap is. And so the rogue is making decisions about how to disarm it, and then the mouse is doing it. But once they got the Jinxie ball, they were able to drop their spirit fish inside of this little spirit mecha, and it came equipped with micro tools, so it would be able to be there in real time with the druid as a mouse, to have both of them operating on these tiny little intricate traps. It'll be like a skill challenge the size of a dime, that if they can decode and break it apart and like work the combination, it'll open up a door that's like 10 feet in size, but it's like this little speck in the wall that they have to find that speck. And once they find it, they have to zoom in on it to the micro scale. Kind of like how this book deals with macro scale. A lot of stuff in the adventure deals with micro scale, which will eventually be an adventure. I already have micro scaling figured out, going from like a 5-foot scale to a half-foot scale to a 1-inch scale to a 1/10 of an inch scale, which is like 10 millimeters down to 1 millimeter down to a nanometer. I can scale down into the quantum scale of the universe as easily as I can upscale to 100 million miles. So it's a microcosm, and that'll probably be like, I probably won't publish that until 2029, but it's out there. It's possible. I can do it. Oh, that's right. I'm supposed to be working with the underside colors here to help reduce this a bit. So when you're doing quantum scaling, like an ant, right? When you're at the 1 millimeter scale, an ant's basically like a 50-foot kaiju. So you can keep your hit points the same. It's just that the objects around you scale up in magnitude and size. Anyway, that's a completely different tangent. But yeah, that's probably the most interesting. That's, I think, the most interesting magic item I give them. The book of rituals that they can continue to extract stuff from. I think the Jinxie Ball is the most is another really fun utility item that helped integrate with the animal companion stuff that the Ranger had going on. Yeah, I think those are probably the coolest that I've developed in quite some time. But like, I don't hand out a lot of magic items. I hand out like utility stuff like that. So as a Bane short bow against undead and a +1 dagger. Other than that, everything else is mundane. Yeah, right on. What level is the character? And what campaign are you running around in? Is it a homebrew or is it a published campaign? I'm actually playing in a Chris Estrad campaign every other week. I play for 3 hours every other Saturday. Not this Saturday, the following Saturday. We're second level right now. We'll probably get third. We just got to Barovia. So we'll probably hit third level at the end of next session. I'm playing a Divine Sorcerer of Selûne. And I've already got a number of magic items. I got some sort of crazy brooch that I can do clairvoyance with, and I've got the team has this Nothic eye in a jar that lets us see invisible creatures. Level 9. Yeah. I don't find I need like 5th edition characters are so powerful they don't really need magic items. Especially if the DM tinkers around with like damage reduction and stuff like that, like what kind of damage creatures can take. Magic items are often not necessary for combat, like at all, which is odd because like magic items is basically the solution, the default solution for martial characters having options like casters do. Just give them a shitload of magic items that they can rotate through and use as weapons and stuff. But yeah, I don't think they need it. I'd rather give them rituals and stuff. I love handing out rituals, things that they have to do concentrate, like they have to do arcane checks or like skill tests to use. It's a very 4E mentality, as I understand it. Yeah, okay, I think I'm good here. We can stitch up the arrow. We can peel open the galleon. Alan Raw! Let's get to work on the line art here. Let's start cleaning it up. What do I need here? I don't think this cleanup that I'm doing here is particularly necessary, but I want to get more familiarity with the thing that we have here. And the best way I know to gain that familiarity is to chew on the line art a little bit. So I'm not really working here to make the image. I mean, the byproduct is this is going to be a cleaner image for sure. But like all this like outline stuff here, like with the color splashing outside the lines, that's something I'm going to have to come through and resolve as well eventually. But right now, I'm just trying to get a feel for the space that this thing occupies, like what lines are actually necessary and what are extraneous. Stills and tatters, should be shatter. As a player, my favorite magic item that I ever had was in 3rd edition. I was playing a Sword Sage Warlock, Worshipper of Shar. And my characters, so I took light blindness as a penalty so I can gain a free feat. And 3rd edition Warlocks, they could convert their Eldritch Blast into a melee weapon that they could make melee attacks with. And the combination of Sword Sage with Warlock at the level I was at allowed me to take the Telfamar Shadow Pouncer Prestige class, which allowed me to, whenever I teleport, I can make a full attack. And at the level I was at, a full attack was 3 attacks. This is in a game in 3rd edition, like a fighter could do like 5 attacks per round. A monk could do like 7. So there's a lot of attacks being thrown around. So as a Shadow Pouncer, I would be able to, if I teleported, I'd then get 3 attacks at the destination 3 melee attacks at the destination I teleported to. And by combining the Sword Sage class from Book of 9 Swords, the Martial Powers book in 3rd edition, it gave me the ability to teleport as a move action, as a bonus action, which were called swift actions. So there was a move action, a swift action, a main action. So I had 3 teleports during my own turn, and I could teleport as an opportunity attack. So I had 4 teleports per turn, 3 during my round. And every time I teleported, I could make a full attack. So as a reaction to like being attacked, I could teleport away. And I would use a glaive, which is a reach weapon. So I only had to teleport 10 feet, and whatever was triggering the opportunity attack would then trigger 3 attacks. So on a good round, I'd have 12 attacks. So my favorite magic item was the glaive that I used. It was a simple +1 glaive, but I used it as a walking stick because the way that my character worked was. For me to use my Warlock pact, I had a pact with Shar, the god of trickery and shadow. So the only way for me to be able to get my power was to stare at the sun so long that it would burn a hole in the middle of my eyes. So I'd get this black spot. You know, like when you stare at the sun too long, you get that black spot in the middle of your eye? Well, that black spot was the hidden black sun of Shar that hid behind Ao and inside a saloon. You couldn't see it unless you blinded yourself by staring into the light so bright that you could find that Shar was actually hiding inside of that light. So when your vision got blasted out, I'd then be able to use I got blind fighting as my free feat to counteract the night vision or the light blindness effect. And every morning I would stare at the sun for it was an increasing amount of time as I gained levels. 10 minutes per like level of magic that I could cast up to 9th level. I'd end up having to spend an hour and a half in the morning staring at the sun, blasting out my vision. And in that giant hollow black space, I'd be able to see her face, and I could converse with her, and I can see her movements, and I can see hidden text and glyphs and all this super esoteric magical detail, like this crazy Warlock pact magic stuff would funnel to me as information by staring into that black void. So the glaive that I had was a +1 glaive. It gave me reach. I could channel my Eldritch Strike through it as a melee weapon, and I used it as a walking stick in the morning when I was blinded. So it was a fairly mundane item, but it was the character backstory that I liked the most. That really glommed me onto that as an item. So anyway, there's that. I think that's probably my favorite character. It's because I was able to do the build that I wanted. The build that I wanted to do was logical for the storyline that we were in, and it curved together my advantages and disadvantages into a really concise narrative plot. So package is the word I was trying to use there. Into a concise narrative package. But that developed over time, like over months and months of gameplay. I just knew that I wanted to have that disadvantage and that Char was my gal and that I would stare at the sun to do it. Like, that's where it began. And then it just kind of kept evolving. But that's me kind of practicing my own, walking my own talk, as it were, as a DM. Like, I didn't want to introduce too much into what my character's backstory and stuff was until we had time to let it develop. So that's when I really started getting adamant about, like, not needing a backstory or only a shell of a backstory in the beginning of a character, because that character was super fucking fun to develop over time. Prior to that, my favorite character was in Dark Sun 2nd Edition. That was a Cody Lakeseener. It was Lakeseener was one of the Elven tribes. Cody was a 7'2" water hunter elf, and he was a fighter psionicist. And in 2nd Edition, when you multi-classed, you progressed 2 classes at the same time, and you had to pay. The amount of experience that you accumulated needed to be enough for both classes to gain a level, for you to gain a level. So I was playing a fighter scion, a psionicist fighter, right? And I took the Theurgy hunter. And so the intro adventure for that character, it was a solo, and I was trapped in a greenhouse underneath the dunes, and I was trapped in there with a black carapace Theurgy that wanted to kill me. It had been hunting me for days, and the scenario started with me being like at low hit points. And in 2nd Edition, you don't get hit points back very quickly, like 1 a day, or your Constitution modifier bonus if you rest 3 days, then your Con modifier kicks in. So I had half hit points at first level, so I had like 5 hit points, and a 20 hit point Theurgy was hunting me. So I ran into these caves. And the cave ended up being a forgotten greenhouse that had actual like moisture and a tree growing in it, and it was like a 5-room dungeon that had multiple levels to it. Like, it had an irrigation system that ran underneath all the plants. There was actually the terrace level where all the plants were at, and then there was a scaffolding up above. And the crane can jump well, so it would take to the catwalks above, and so I would dive into the canals underneath it to try to escape it. It had tchotchke that I could throw, and if it missed me, there were boomerangs who would come back to it. And if I got hit, I could take maybe 1 or 2 hits from those before I would die. And so I had to figure out how to lure the crane out, because it wanted to eat me. So I needed to lure the crane out and get it caught. I eventually was able to cause the scaffolding, lure it down to the ground level, and then cause the scaffolding to fall and crush it and kill it. So that was like maybe a 2-hour adventure, me figuring that out as a solo fight. And so the reward that I got from that was I hollowed out and carved out as black carapace and made Theurgy armor for my character. So at 2nd level, I had crane armor, and crane armor was a prestigious item to possess in your tribe. Since the preferred food of crane is elves, elves developed their entire life of being nomads, running away from crane. So all tribes had crane hunters, which were basically like they'd hang back and fight the crane that were chasing after the tribe while the rest of your tribe got away. So if you came rolling up in crane armor, it was a large declaration of "I will kill you and wear your corpse." So I had this. It was like a demon crane that I was fighting. So its black armor was rare. There were no other black crane. So I killed an endangered critter, and I wore it as a badge of honor for my tribe. So when I returned back to my tribe, I was a local hero basically, and so I gained resources and stuff like that. The campaign didn't last much longer, but it was one of my favorite characters ever. And in other Dark Sun campaigns, I was allowed to export him, pick him up, and bring him into other campaigns. And he stuck around. I kept him around until about level 17 over the course of like maybe 8 years of different games I played in during high school and college. That wasn't technically magic item, but it was that item I feel I earned more than any other I ever had in the game. So like all second and first edition players, I got really attached to that character because of the magic items I accumulated. Because those magic items are trophies that are proof of victory in past stories. So when you talk to old school gamers, you ask them about their character, a lot of times they're going to point to all their different magic items and what they had to do to get them. Because there was no real character backstory, and their characters didn't have a lot of uniqueness to them. Like, fighters are pretty much just fighters. The Scion was interesting because there was a stack of like 200 different powers that allowed them to do, that allowed them to become really unique and add it to their combat sequence. Let's see. Checking. There we go. We're doing good. What is it? 8 o'clock? Cool. So we're doing cleanup here, as expected. I still have roughly an hour. We'll see. We'll see if I stay the whole hour or not. But basically, I'll just be riffing on this stuff for a while. Good. Just want to get these contour lines right. I'm going to eventually just bond these down into the color underneath them and then put highlights across them. But for now, I want to make sure I do it right. All this stuff is going to make illustrating the sails much easier. Rendering the sails is going to be a lot easier if I clean up all the line art that we have going on here. Lines like this I want to keep in place because like ropes and ladders and stuff, I want to have those inside of the narrative of the space, but I can also add them in as necessary. I can feel the momentum to leave because normally I have to check out at 8 o'clock. But we're in bonus time today. Getting out cursed. Oh, fucking A. I hate cursed items. I hate that shit. I will use curses to broker for power. Like if you want a magic item, and it's more. I can anticipate it becoming a problem in the future. Then I may balance it with some sort of a curse, but I've since evolved to, if I don't feel good about a magic item, I don't want to compromise it. I'm just going to keep it off the plate altogether and find some other way for you to be able to gain access to whatever it is that you want to do. But yeah, not a fan. Sorry for being a hater. But yeah, not a fan of cursed items. I don't like that. I don't like the distrust that is kind of bred into using magic items. Like, you're always paranoid. There's like if that's your style of game, if your style of game is gotcha rocket tag, then yeah, carry on. But that is not the style of game I like to DM. I'm more of a puzzle investigation sort of character, sort of DM. Like, I look at plot intrigue and politics as puzzles. I look at combat as a sort of hazard trap. Like, I almost frame, in my mind, I frame things almost always in the exploration pillar, and then like reflavor it or like present it in a different fashion, like as a social challenge. But the real goal is to interrogate the person, or like here's combat, but your real goal is to conquer the main boss so that his minions will fall in line with your team. Stuff like that. To me, there's pretty much only exploration, and the other things that you can do as a means of just narrating or framing what that exploration is, and how much risk there is to your character for exploring it. You know, if that makes sense. Got the smooth jazz on the radio here. Now we'll make this prow. Make us prow. Fill it up with filigree. Yeah, basically like that. that in. Get that angle going. Like that. There we go. That helped flesh it out just a little bit more to get that front angle in there to help it push towards the camera just a little bit more. Didn't require a lot, but it's present. That's all that we needed. So we can go into the back here. Colors. Got this here like that. Overlay. So far, so good. Well, good. Obviously, I'm very opinionated. That angle is wrong. I need to fix it. So let's fix it. I like that angle, but I don't think it's, I think it needs to be there. Come on, buddy. You're scratching your shit up. There we go. I like these shapes. Where'd that come from? There. It's not horrible. Let's keep at it. Thank you, Timely Timer. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. No? Here. I'd like to start on the next piece on Monday. I'm not sure if we're gonna have time to get this one done before then. Like, I don't know if I'll have this done by tomorrow or not. Signs are I mean, traditionally the answer would be no. I'm going to need at least another day or two, but I am just, at this point, just rendering the boat. So it's vaguely possible I could have this done tomorrow. This is really a matter of how much effort and attention am I really going to want to put into this. I think I'm going to do this. There, that feels a lot better as a rudder. Very good, very good, very good. No, very, 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 very good. Just merge those down and keep life simple. Feeling pretty good about this. I'm feeling really, really good. some light cleanup over here. Good. There. Good. Like that. There we go. It's just a bunch of cleanup. Yeah. Just keep that good and clean. Da, 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 da. perspective is an issue right here, so I need to switch that up. That feels better. I feel like I'm done. Something just shifted, so I'm going to stop. I don't know why. Something's told me I need to stop right now, so I'm just going to go ahead and heed that. Following my heart as closely as possible is the way I'm able to do what I do. So I'm going to follow my heart and bail. I'm going to be back. It's 8:30 now. I'm going to be back in about 3 hours to continue working on Martial Powers project. We're going to do a couple more Ravnica guild backgrounds, converting them into the martial power paradigm. And then later on tonight, in about 11 hours, I'll be back to do Eberron art, more creature tokens. So, right on. Thanks, Karen, for hanging out and conversation and helping me walk down memory lane a little bit. I really appreciate that. Thanks. I will see everybody, and hopefully in about 3 hours. And in the meantime, you have a great day. Cheers.